Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. This is Bill coming to you on behalf of the Geek Fortress. I decided that what I want to do is I want to talk about comic characters, right? Type. It gets boring after a while. I want to actually talk. Sometimes that's just what I'm good at, right? And you can't really express emotions the right way when you're typing. I do what I can, but it doesn't always work out. It doesn't pan out the way that I wanted to. So let's talk. Just talk. Comment, leave whatever kind of information you want, disagree, agree, whatever. I want to start off talking about, let's say, Killer Croc. All right, he's one of the characters in the Suicide Squad movie. I feel like he's a throwaway character. Make no mistake, I actually like Killer Croc. I like Killer Croc a lot. But it bugs me that he's pretty much solely a Batman character. Batman enemy. He's in the Rogues Gallery there. I feel that if Killer Croc was any place else, like let's say if he were stronger and a Superman villain, he would get more love, more credibility, right? But besides his strengths, Killer Croc's mainly known for his weakness, right? He's got this one weakness, this one flaw that's just beyond overwhelming, and that is his intelligence. He's got a degrading IQ, right? It's supposed to be, it was meant to be in the comics that every time that you see Killer Croc, he's going to get dumber. He's going to be dumber than he was in the last issue, the last series, the last run that he was in. That was meant to be. And if he were the villain of, let's say, like I said, Superman, it's not a big deal. Superman's a big guy. He's going to punch somebody. You know, at the end of the day, he's going to win by punching someone or something, or use his heat vision. It's going to be some kind of destructive capability that's like, oh, yeah, he held back, but look what he did anyway. If he were a One Punch Man villain, right? Let's just be honest here, right? If it was a Goku villain where everything is just going back and forth, I mean, if he were a Hulk villain, right? He'd be like the Abomination. None of that matters. But he's a Batman villain, right? And when you look at Batman's Rogue Gallery, all right, at the end of the day, what's the key thing about them? They're usually pretty intelligent, right? You got Joker. Oh, he's nuts. He's crazy off his rocker, right? But he's a very intelligent guy. He's a frightening person. He's scary smart, right? Even Harley, she can pull off some, she's dumb as a bat. Okay, maybe Harley's not a great example, but when she's teamed up with the Joker specifically, oh yeah. You look at Black Mask, right? You look at Red Hood before he, joined the Bat family proper. You look at the Penguin. You look at the Riddler. You could go on and on. Two-Face, right? Would any of those characters I just mentioned be any good for Spider-Man? Nah, web him up, toss him, in the garbage can, leave him for police. Look for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But they're Batman villains, right? And Batman has a certain methodology. The Batman comics are written in a certain way where Batman overcomes them not by punching them in the face. No, that's the cool action scenes that you get to see from the artist, right? That's the artist getting to shine a little bit. But it's the writer for Batman. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we love seeing the good artwork. And Batman usually gets the best artwork, right? The best artists in there because they know where their bread and butter is. You know what I'm saying? Superman, Batman, pepper in a few others, but I mean, for crying out loud. But it's the writers that really make Batman who he is, right? And it's not just knocking the bad guy out. It's about outthinking the bad guy. And every single time he's got to outthink the bad guy. And Killer Croc just doesn't fit into that mold. That's why when you see an animated movie or something, the animated TV series, or even just in the books a lot of times, Killer Croc is usually the first villain he'll encounter. It's like their way of saying, oh, things just got serious, because Batman's got an overwhelmingly powerful foe. I mean, even Bane. I don't want to get too much into it because Bane deserves his own video, in itself. But I mean, Bane. Everybody, they're always going to show a scene. Every time that you see Bane in a comic or in a movie or in a whatever, or they reintroduce Bane, whatever, they're always going to show that scene where he picks Batman up over top of his head and brings his knee up and he's about to try and break the Batman's back, because that's how we were introduced to Bane. And Bane was smart back then. He was huge. He was dangerous. He was scary as hell. He had a really awesome costume, like a stupid tank top and that cool ass lucha libre mask. That was badass, right? But it was how scary, dangerous he was in that Nightfall series, right? Right or wrong? Anybody who remembers that comic, it wasn't just the culmination was him breaking Batman's back, but it was the idea of how he did it. He knew what was going on. He just, when we first see Bane, for the most part, going back to Killer Croc, he breaks Killer Croc's arms. He sees him again later on, right during that scene. Excuse me, that run, and he breaks his arm again. He breaks another one of his arms, right? I think it was his right arm. He breaks his right arm, again when he meets up again. But yeah, Bane at first was really, awesome because he was a thinker. After that, he was just basically a brute, doped up on venom. They took the venom away, whatever. He was never really a thinking man's criminal again. Killer Croc, for the most part, almost never was, aside from his first appearance. Showed up in a Batman comic. Just, he was in the shadows, in the sewer, right? Nobody knew who he was, and all of a sudden he's revealed. I think maybe a lot of people don't know this. Maybe you do. Kudos if you do. Brownie points. But Killer Croc was actually the original person who killed the parents of Jason Todd, the second Batman. The second Robin, who became Red Hood. He was actually the original guy who killed the parents, causing the eventual culmination of becoming Robin, right? They retconned that, and for, I think, good reasons. They made it that it was now Two-Face who wound up killing Jason Todd's parents. It makes sense because you bring it over to a thinking man's villain, right? I mean, a lot of times Batman's villains don't have superpowers, any way, shape, or form, right? They're just regular people who any other villain would just would tear apart. You bring up the Punisher, Punisher would kill the Joker. Done and done. He would kill freaking Two-Face. It's like, you remind me of Jigsaw. Bang! There. The Punisher's going to kill whoever he comes across, right? And these are villains who are very easily killed, right? Batman doesn't kill. That's important, right? Care about your freaking BVS stuff, all right? It's all BS as far as I'm concerned. Batman doesn't kill, because if Batman kills, he's just the Punisher. But Killer Croc presents something different. That's where Batman can pretty much let loose. You could see how badass Batman actually is. He's not just a thinking guy. He's not the guy who's just going to get through all the thugs and the henchmen until he gets to, the Riddler standing on top of a big puzzle box, Killer Croc is where he can actually let loose and throw those explosive batarangs. In fact, that's where it pretty much got to the point where the only way Batman beats Killer Croc now is by putting plastic explosives on Killer Croc's chest and blowing him through a wall and stuff like that, knocking him unconscious, or using a heavy intensity gas to knock him out, Like, nothing's gonna just defeat Croc. He's not gonna knock Croc out with a punch, or God forbid, like that second Marvel DC crossover where he kicks the Hulk in the the solar plexus and causes him to breathe deep the gas that he puts out. No. He's not going to do that. That's not the way that pressure points work. That way, you still got to get through the epidermis, all right? And when you're talking about pure muscle, I don't care how strong Batman is. He's not Killer Croc strong, right? He's certainly not Hulk strong. He's not going to be able to do that. So Batman's going to be on the receiving end, right? Batman's going to get his butt handed to him. Batman's going home, and that's where Alfred becomes relevant, right? Batman's going to go home after a battle with Killer Croc, and he's going to need those stitches because now he's got to go out and fight the real villain, right? And that's what Killer Croc is really all about. That's the reason why Killer Croc is important to the Rogues Gallery. You know, I mean, even Clayface. I know a lot of people right now are probably saying, "Hey, but Clayface too." Clayface serves a completely different purpose. He can also infiltrate. Where's Croc going to infiltrate? There's a reason why he stays in the sewers, right? But yeah, with Killer Croc anyway, he's not a thinking man's opponent, right? He's just going to be this guy who wants to talk trash, but he's not all there. So sometimes it doesn't come out right, and he's just about raw and slash and yeah, like what you call it, like the Lizard from the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery. And yes, the Lizard came out before Killer Croc did. Look it up. Gene Colan is the artist who originally, he's one of the co-creators of Killer Croc, right? And Gene Colan is most famous for being in Marvel. He started out in DC. He went and worked in Marvel since God. He even had to change it. He had to use a pseudonym to work in Marvel back in the Tales of Suspense and Tales to Astonish days, before Iron Man had his own series, before Captain America had his own Silver Age series, before Thor had his own series, right? He came in and started working in Namor's series and taking over for the Iron Man drawing after Kirby was like, I got too much on my plate. So after a while, Gene Colan did quit Marvel and he went over to DC. He worked on Wonder Woman and Batman most famously. And it was his drawing that, and to my understanding, it was his suggestion also, Killer Croc. So that was completely ripped off from Marvel. Whatever. It also evolved into its very own thing, right? Whether Killer Croc has a tail like the Lizard or not, doesn't matter. He's still a phenomenally interesting character in that regard. But you're not going to see too many really cool stories with Killer Croc. Killer Croc 1 was a really good story where the only person who was ever nice to him as a kid is murdered by some corrupt police, and the entire story is just this elaborate ruse by Killer Croc to get these corrupt cops to come down into the sewers, thinking that there was going to be an exchange, of the information for money, and it turns out it was just, no, I'm going to kill you. I'm not going to give you any real explanation. If you can't figure it out in death, whatever. But you are going to die because you killed the one person who was nice to me when I was a kid. And that kind of brings me into the origin. Killer Croc's mother died in childbirth. And Killer Croc's dad he abandoned the scene. Waylon Jennings is the name of Killer Croc, right? That's his real name. And he started developing a form of atavism, I think it's called, rare skin disease, where where you basically have like scales growing on your skin in certain parts, right? And your skin will be kind of rough. The DC Comics kind of took it to an extreme, which is cool. It's comics. Let it be. Where they say, our lizard ancestors, we skipped the simian ancestors and went back to the lizard ancestors. And no, that's not actually how it works in evolution. But it's comics. Let it be. And so, Waylon actually started developing those sort of characteristics from back when. uh, and that's why he's got that croc kind of look, right? Um, and he always kind of, I guess the Waterboy reference, the medulla oblongata, right? You know, it was prevalent, and he was always angry and afraid more than any other emotion, more than any other brain function. So he used to get angry a lot. He used to be pissed off at the kids making fun of him, and who wouldn't, right? I mean, realistically, when you look at it, Killer Croc is the perfect nerd, right? When he was a kid, um, got beaten up when he was a kid because he looked funny, he looked different, right? And he grew up to be a pretty tough guy, and now he's just not going to take it anymore from anybody. Um, One of the best Killer Croc. In fact, I'm going to say that it's my favorite Killer Croc moment was Batman number 521 and 522. Look it up, Batman 521, 522. Go to your comic book store, try and grab it. If you got the DC Comics app, look it up and read those comics. They're actually, like, for me, really good comics. There's some dumb scenes in it, like Batman and Robin, what do you call it? Alfred quit, and Batman and Robin are trying to wash their clothes, and world's greatest freaking detective doesn't know how to work a damn washing machine. Brilliant writing right there, but whatever. You know what? It's comics. Let it be. Um, but yeah, Killer Croc is in Arkham Asylum, and he gets this mystic summoning to escape, and he does pretty easily. He's Killer frickin' Croc. He escapes and he leaves, and Batman finds out, and he starts driving the Batmobile after him. What do you call it? Killer Croc gets on a train and takes over the train and starts driving it from Gotham all the way into Louisiana. Yeah, it's kind of far. That's a hike. And what do you call it? So Batman's following when he realizes Batmobile doesn't have that much gas. He never thinks I'm going to stop off and I'm going to get gas, right? You know, he's got like what natural pipelines, gas pipelines coming to the Batcave. That's safe. But he never stops and thinks, I'll use the Bat credit card. Thank you for that, Clooney. Um, and I'm going to, refill at the fueling station. No. He instead drives up next to the frickin' train and then crashes the the car into a ravine, the Bat car into a ravine, and jumps on the train. Antics ensue. Enough that take two issues. Croc is able to get away, and he goes into the swamps of, I think he called it the Wet Dark, right? Into the swamps of Louisiana. He's getting out there, and Batman's in pursuit, and there's this big confrontation. All of a sudden, Man Thing appears, right? Man Thing or Swamp Thing? Oh, crap. Okay, I'm going to admit I don't remember which one is Marvel and which one is DC. Because I don't really read Man Thing or Swamp Thing. I think it's actually Swamp Thing that is DC. Anyway, shows up and he says, I actually summoned him, right? And it's because his IQ has gotten to such a devolved level. He's more beast than he is human anymore. He doesn't belong in an insane asylum. You wouldn't put a real, reptile in in a prison or in an insane asylum, right? You would set him free into the wild, and that's what I'm doing. He's going to be allowed to hunt, and he's going to be allowed to eat, drink, and sleep like he needs to, because he's just a dumb creature at this point, And Batman didn't like it, but the hell is Batman going to do against, saying the Swamp Thing? So, yeah, that's what happens, and the story itself plays out, obviously a lot better than what I'm explaining. Like I said, though, worth reading. Just let the feels kind of come over you. I don't know. When you think about the origin of Killer Croc, after his parents were gone, which if you ever seen Batman Returns, that was the second one that Michael Keaton played in, where Danny DeVito played the Penguin. The Penguin was actually given a Killer Croc origin, right? That was more Killer Croc's origin than anything else. It wasn't nearly precise, but it was a lot closer to that than it was to the Penguin's actual origin, you know? But anyway, Killer Croc actually was raised by his aunt, and his aunt used to beat the crap out of him and used to just call him a freak and all sorts of different things like that. There's a really cool scene where she throws him in the bathtub and says, "Now you stay in there and you keep on scrubbing until you get rid of all those nasty scales." Meanwhile, he's still got the claws and the teeth. You know, it's like, how are you going to get rid of that? Sandpaper? You know? But yeah, phenomenal story. I should say phenomenal background. Like, to me, it's like, you know, it's obvious why this guy's a villain. You know, the guy was never, ever given a chance, right? And yet somehow we're supposed to root for Batman beating the crap out of this guy using explosives and C4 and all sorts of things like that. But he is causing trouble, so he's got to be stopped. But you know, the recidivism rate, like, why is he going to keep on going back to Arkham? Clearly, there's something more than just, you know, and that I almost feel like that story, 521, 522 of Batman. I think that would have really been just the best way to just shelf that character, you know, and maybe just reboot Killer Croc at that point. Like, instead of Waylon, have somebody else now be Killer Croc, you know, like, just whatever. He was bit by Killer Croc and lived, and he's like a werewolf, lycanthrope kind of thing. But whatever it is, I think it would have been a really good time to reboot the character and just let Waylon stay in the swamp with Swamp Thing. Because, yeah, to me, like I said, that was a really good feel-good moment where it's like, this is where he really belongs at this point because he's not a human anymore, you know? Aside from that, going to his strengths. I told you his weakness, you know, which makes him not such a great Batman villain, but strength, he's uber strong, bulletproof because of his skin. Sometimes he has a tail, sometimes he doesn't. Depends on who's drawing him, who's writing him. And that's really it. He can bite things and scratch things. Anyway, tell me what you thought about the video. I'm going to make more, so it's not just one. You get to decide any good or not so good. And yeah, hope to see you on the Fortress. Geek on, my peeps.